Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am paring it down and keeping it simple with the adorable Caring Leaf stamp set from the Stampin' Up! 2024 Holiday Mini Catalog. Now, this stamp set is one of the most economically priced stamp sets in the catalog at just $24. But it has so much potential. There are so many things you can do with it. And if you know me, if you've been hanging out on my channel for any length of time, you know how much I love fall. And so any opportunity to play with fall images like beautiful leaves and fall colors, I'm all over it. So this was a stamp set that was a no-brainer for me. It's a great price point and it's got lots of potential. So I'm going to show you 3 projects today. I'm going to show you a few others that I've created with this stamp set. And it may just be something that you want to kind of sneak into your cart at some point this fall because it really is just a great set. So if you are joining me, people know that I've got people there. And it lets me know that everything's working as it should. And I'll give you a little hello if I see your name come up. All right, GDK. Oh, you liked my reference to good old Lucy Maud. Yes, that's one of my favorite quotes. So for those who don't know what I'm referring to, in my October newsletter, I quoted Lucy Maud Montgomery, and author of Anne of Green Gables. The quote, I'm so thankful I live in a world where there are Octobers. We are on the 1st of October today, and the leaves are just starting to change here. And the weather is just starting to cool down. It has been super mild all fall. But tomorrow we're supposed to have a high of 17 degrees Celsius, which feels a little bit more like sweater weather. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, who else we got? We got Crystal. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Diana and Colleen. Hi, Louise. No, you made it up this. Yes, our neighborhood has lowered speed limits around. We have 4 schools within, well, a kilometer of each other, and they've lowered the speed limits to 30 kilometers per hour. So you kind of idle along the streets in our neighborhood right now. Um, oh, Lisa, that's cool. Lisa Montgomery, that's a cool little bit. And Louise, you were born in October. Yep. And hi, Joyce. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Jill. All right, I'm learning all kinds of things about all of you. Hi, Peggy. I'm glad you could join me. Hi, Cindy. Glad you're able to join me live. All right, let's get to it. I could sit here and chit chat with comments all day, but you're not here to hear me talk. So let me just quick show you the stamp set we're going to be working with. It's way at the back of the mini catalog, way on page 59. It's this just sort of cute little unassuming stamp set. But I've had a number of people ask me about this cute little utensil holder. Great for a Thanksgiving table as we're preparing here in Canada for Thanksgiving next weekend. And it's actually made using this stamp set. So for $24, you get lots and lots of value. Okay. Oh, you're born on October 3rd. Well, it's almost birthday, Jeannie K. All right, so Caring Leaves, here it is. It's a 2-step stamp set. So we have sort of a sketched outline image and then a soft watercolor solid image to fill in each of the 2 types of leaves. And then just some really simple little sentiments that have lots of potential for just about any occasion. So let's get to some stamping. The first card we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of it, and then we have to give it time to dry because it's got some watercolored elements, and we don't want it to be wet when we put it together. So I posted this earlier today. Really simple fall background, but so easy to do with this cute stamp set. So we're going to start with a piece of Fluid 100 watercolor paper. So this is our watercolor paper that is in the annual catalog. And you could really, if you have watercolor paper kicking around, you could absolutely use that. This is cut to 3.5 by 4 3/4. I do like the Fluid 100 because it is very close to Very Vanilla in terms of color palette. And I feel like it works really well with our so if I want to use Very Vanilla cardstock on my project, I feel like it works really well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of stamping. We're going to stamp the leaf outline images in Cherry Cobbler and Cajun Craze. So I'm going to start with this sort of oak leaf, and we're going to stamp that one a few times, just sort of falling down our little panel here. just like that. Okay, I want to keep in mind, I want to leave a bit of empty space here because that's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment eventually. So that was cherry cobbler, and then I'm going to come in with some Cajun craze, and we're going to stamp this little birch leaf or poplar. I don't know. Pick a leaf, pick a tree. So we'll come on. Let's do this one this way, and we'll do one this way. My Cajun craze really needs re-inking. Apparently, it looks very, very light, but that's okay. We can work with that. I think we're going to add. No, you know what? I think that's enough. All right. So first step, just stamping in the two fall-like shades. You can pick any shades really, but if you want fall, the reds and the oranges are the way to go. So now I'm going to come in with this sort of solid oak leaf image, okay? And we're going to fill in the outline image. Now, I'm not super worried. This is not designed to be perfect, okay? This stamp, these two-step stamps are not intended to perfectly fill in. They're gonna, the solid image is gonna bleed a little bit over the edge of the outline, and that's okay. It's supposed to do that. If that bothers you, you need to be okay with it. That's all I can say. It's one of those things that is designed to be a little bit sort of free-flowing. All right, now I'm going to come in with some pumpkin pie and fill in the poplar or birch or whatever, the smoother leaf, smooth edged leaf. So I'm filling that one in. And again, I'm not being super careful, but trying to make sure I get them all just so. Okay, now this is where the magic happens. So you can see that these colors are fairly muted. It's kind of hard to believe that this is going to turn into this. Okay, do you see how muted those are? But this is where the magic happens. So I'm going to bring in my blender pen. So these are, they are clear liquid pens, and they're designed to watercolor with. And so I'm going to start with my oak leaves. I'll start with this little partial one up at the top. And you're going to be amazed as I pull the color from the stamped image. You're going to see that this leaf just kind of comes to life. So I'm going right over the red, the cherry cobbler, and I'm pulling that in because I want to get a little bit of that orange, right? Red plus yellow equals orange. I remember that from grade 5 art. My mom was my grade 5 art teacher. Yes, I was a teacher's kid, and I did not enjoy it, let me tell you. She ignored me. She didn't want to be accused of showing favorite, so I was ignored. I just kind of did my thing, and occasionally, you know, would get a little bit of help, but yeah, didn't enjoy being in that class. All right, so you can see, look at the difference. There is my blended leaf. There is my not blended leaf. Isn't that amazing, the difference? So let's do this full leaf. You'll really see it on the full image. So again, I'm starting over that red edge because I want to pull some of that red down into my leaf because I want to get that sort of orangey effect. And the reason I'm using watercolor paper is I can blend it a little bit more. You can get the same effect. I'll show you actually. I can show you one here. On the inside of my card, I just stamped some very vanilla cardstock and blended it, but you can't blend it quite as much because the very vanilla cardstock isn't really designed to stand up to the moisture, and it'll start to pill. Okay, but watercolor paper is designed to absorb all that moisture and stand up, and you can really blend these out and get beautiful multicolored leaves. So again, I'm just pulling that red in from the edges, and it's going to sort of soften the image, so you're not going to get really crisp lines, which is part of that watercolor look. Okay, there, you can see that leaf really well. Look at the difference. Isn't that pretty? All right, so let's pull in this last one. So we're going to finish filling these guys in. And then we'll go to the orange. So you'll notice I'm really kind of scrubbing at these. Okay, that's what's really going to move your ink. And that is why the watercolor paper is kind of essential to get that really blended look. And then we'll go over the stem a little bit. There we go. So those are our oak leaves. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm going to just get rid of a little bit of the color that's still on my brush. And then I'm going to come in and do my orange leaves. So these are going to be more orange. I'm going to pull in, it's going to pull in a little bit of the Cajun craze, but my Cajun craze is quite dry. So there's not a ton of that color on the image. But even so, we're still going to get a little bit of contrast here. So again, I'm just pulling that color. Okay, and again, you can see the difference, this leaf versus this leaf where I haven't colored. Okay. All right. Oh, we got lots of people coming in. Okay, we got Jean. Hi, Jean. Welcome. Hi, Mia. Oh, lots and lots of rain in Cincinnati. We're supposed to be getting quite a bit of rain tonight. But then tomorrow it's supposed to be not too bad again. So I'm okay with that. Rain at night and nice sunny skies during the day. Works for me just fine. So I'm just going to finish filling this in, or blending this out rather. There we go. Okay, so now we've got some nice vibrant leaves. Isn't it amazing that those, sort of faint leaves that I stamped initially really, really pop when I blend them out a little bit. Okay, so now we are going to darken down our background. So we're going to bring in a little bit of pecan pie ink and a small blending brush. I'm using a small brush because I need to be able to kind of maneuver in and around those leaves. So I'm going to start off the edge of my watercolor paper, and I'm going to come on with my pecan pie ink and my blending brush. Now I'm taking care not to brush like right directly over the leaves because I really still want to keep that vibrant color. I don't want to get a whole lot of brown sort of covering up that vibrant orange and yellow. So the small blending brushes are really handy for that because you can kind of maneuver in between those images rather than the big brushes, where it's a little bit harder to control where the ink is going. So I'm just coming on. I'm going to come all the way around and add that pecan pie ink. And I'm intentionally keeping the center a little bit lighter. Okay, I kind of want it to kind of glow in the middle a little bit. And again, that's going to let those leaves really pop. So we'll just do this last little corner here. Okay, now I want to darken the top right corner, or sorry, top left and bottom right a little bit. So I'm just going to come on with a little bit more ink around those corners. Darken those down a bit, and then we're actually going to come in with a little bit of early espresso to really sort of darken it. Okay. Oh, we're all making friends. I love that you all are chit-chatting and discovering some of you live close to each other. That's so cool. All right. Now I'm going to bring in some early espresso. I'm just going to keep going. You guys talk amongst yourselves. We're all good. So I'm coming in with my early espresso, and with this, I'm really just hitting the edges. Okay. Can you see how it's really just darkening the very edge of my cardstock here? And that's really going to give me a nice frame for my background. So I'm putting more ink actually on my grid paper than I am on my cardstock with the early espresso, because I don't want it to be too dark. So here we go. Oh, that's looking good. And then a little bit here in this corner. There we go. Isn't that a pretty background? So simple. Now, before we set this aside to dry, this is the part that needs to dry. We're going to add some water spots. Water spatters, water spots. JDK, Colleen is in Atlantic, Canada. She's on PEI. All right, so we are going to just take our water painter, and I'm going to just flick. I'm going to get a little water going to make sure my brush is nice and wet. And I'm just going to flick some droplets of water onto my inked and stamped piece. That's it. And I'm just going to let them dry. This is why we need to set this aside for a bit. The other thing we're going to do is pick up a little smidge of early espresso ink. So I'm just putting my brush just on the corner of my ink pad. And again, I'm going to flick a few little spatters of early espresso. Okay. And that we are going to let dry. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to work on our other projects, and then we will come back and finish this one at the end. All right. All right. So let's get this out of the way. I'm going to get rid of this grid paper because it is wet from my spattering. And away we go. All right. I love that you all are just chit-chatting about who lives where. It's great. Okay, next card we're going to work on is this one. I am loving the combination of wild wheat and pretty peacock for fall with a little hint of gold. So again, really, really simple layout, simple card, but has a real wow factor because of that sort of regal color palette. So I'm going to start with a piece of wild wheat cardstock. It is 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. I am going to quickly clean my stamps because we are going to be using wild wheat rather than pumpkin pie with these guys. And I'm only using the sort of smooth edged leaf. So the poplar or birch or whatever you want to, whatever tree type you would like to assign this leaf to. So I'm going to start again with my outline image, and I'm going to stamp it several times. Now, this time I want it to look quite random. So I'm going to add leaves kind of going in every which direction. Partial images, images going off the edge, all of that, because that makes it look like I've cut this from a larger piece. And maybe we'll get a little guy sneaking in here like this. Okay, so there is my outline. Then I'm going to come in with the solid image. I'm not stamping off at all. I'm going full strength right over top. And you get this great tone on tone effect, just stamping directly onto the outline. Now, if you wanted, you could stamp off. You would get a much lighter shade of wild wheat, which also looks great. But because I'm doing tone on tone, it doesn't show up quite, it doesn't have quite as much impact. I did try it stamped off. In fact, I can maybe show you on the back side so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to fill in all those outlines that I had stamped. One more kind of down here. Okay, so let me show you real quickly on the back what it would look like if I stamped off that inside. So I'm going to ink up the solid image, stamp off, and then when I stamp on, you see how the outline is much more prominent. You don't really see the solid quite as much. Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's finish putting this one together. So I've stamped my panel. I'm going to bring in a piece of Regal Floral, or Regal Winter. I guess it's called Regal Winter. The stamp set is Regal Flora. DSP. This is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I love this pecan pie plaid. Works. I've used it a ton for fall cards. We are going to go ahead and layer that stamped panel onto our DSP panel. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue. Oh, we're almost out of Tombow here. It may be time for a fresh bottle. I think we will grab a fresh one because I don't want to fight with that for the next half hour or so. There we go. So we're going to pop this on and just make sure our edges line up nice and tidy. Okay, and then we're going to add a little bit of ribbon. Now, let me explain how I got this ribbon. So we have our rustic wild wheat ribbon from the mini catalog, and then we have this fabulous pretty peacock and gold ribbon from the annual. Let me see. I'll pull in both ribbon because I've chopped this up. So here is the rustic, right? The wild wheat rustic ribbon. And then this is the pretty peacock. This was part of the, I think it's the lavender suite in last year's annual and then carried over. So it's this one. It's kind of just a little bit of a rustic sort of woven ribbon. Okay. So what I did is I trimmed the finished edge off of the wild wheat as well as part of the pretty peacock. Okay, so I just trimmed the edge. So what we're going to do to start, I'm going to, will this reach? Oh, no, it won't. We're going to have to trim a little bit. That's okay. You can watch what I did. Do I have a scrap? Nope. Okay, we're going to cut a piece. I thought I might have a scrap of that ribbon so I wouldn't have to start a new roll, but that's okay. That's why we have ribbon, right? That's why we stash it, to use it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just take my scissors and I'm going to cut that finished edge all the way along. So I'm going to go all the way up. You do need a good pair of fabric scissors to do this. You don't want to do it with your paper snips. It will not end well. So we're just going to trim that. Okay, and then I'm going to take those two sort of trimmed edges of the ribbon and I'm going to lay them across the front of my panel here and we're going to secure them with some glue dots. So let's start here. This is going to go not quite centered on my panel, so it's going to go a little bit closer to the right edge. Wow, I don't know my left from right today, apparently. So we're going to run that across. I'm going to trim off all that excess. I don't need all of that. And then I'm going to add another glue dot. There we go. There we go. Okay, and now we can go ahead and glue that onto our Very Vanilla card base. So this is just a piece of, I still had a little bit of Very Vanilla thick cardstock left. We don't carry the thick anymore, but I had a little bit. So you can just use regular Very Vanilla. It works just fine. 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. So we'll go ahead and fold that along our score line. And then we're going to pop this on to our card base. Oh, I almost did that upside down. Look at that. There we go. That's the way we want it. So we'll just pop that on there. And then I have already got, oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to tuck my little gold leaves in there. We're going to do that really quickly before that glue dries. So I have some of these gold mesh leaves that are part of the Autumn Expressions of Autumn, Autumn Splendor, I think it's called, suite. So I'm going to, what I had done on my original was actually glue them with some seal, but I forgot to do that. So we're just going to tuck these in. These will get secured once I add my other elements on top. So I'm just taking and trimming them so I can tuck them in because my glue has already started to set here. There we go. And I'm actually going to add just a smidge of seal as soon as I find where I put it underneath, just to secure that. We're not going to see that seal. It's going to get covered by the other elements. Okay. Then I have my little fussy cut leaves. So I'm going to show you just how quick and easy it is to fussy cut. I did all but one. So we're going to go ahead and stamp one little leaf and I'm going to fussy cut it just to show you that this is not a hard one to fussy cut. I know some of us are allergic to fussy cutting, but you don't need to be with this one. It's actually a good one to practice fussy cutting on. So I'm going to ink my outline and then add my solid image, which is really hard to see because I can't look down, but that's pretty close. And then we're just going to cut it out. So I didn't even worry about the stems. I just cut right up, cut off my stem and just follow that outline image around. So these are super quick and easy. You could fussy cut a whole whack of these if you wanted to make those cute little utensil holders that are in the catalog. Okay. All right. Now these are going to get arranged as well. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal to the back of one, and we're going to tuck that in right about there, maybe in a little bit more. And then we're going to add another one, kind of here-ish. And then we're going to just keep layering. So now I'm going to add some wild wheat ones. So we're kind of just creating this little arrangement of leaves. And then we're going to add our sentiments over top in just a minute. So let's do one more pretty peacock leaf. We'll have that guy going up that way. And then one more wild wheat, kind of coming down like this. Okay, so that's all there is to it. We've just stuck them all on with a bit of seal. And then I have just a little 1/2 inch scrap of Very Vanilla. So this is a 1/2 inch by 4, okay? And we're going to adhere that. We're going to stamp and adhere it across our little leaf arrangement. So for this, I'm going to use the Some Things Never Change sentiment. And I'm going to stamp it in Pretty Peacock. So here we go. And I'm going to stamp it not perfectly centered. I need to move this closer. Sorry, girls. I can't see. Here we go. Right about there is good. And then that is going to get popped up right across the front of our card. So we'll just add a couple of dimensionals, probably 3, all the way across. And we'll get rid of our backings. And then we'll pop this on. Now, for this, I have to use my grid lines to get it straight. I'm not good at getting things straight. So we're going to use our grid lines to our advantage and make sure this goes on nice and straight, just like that. Okay, and then the last touch here, or second last, is to add a bow. So this is a bow that I tied from the little scraps that I had left over earlier. So I'm going to just secure that to the Very Vanilla strip here. So I'm just going to take and press the knot of my bow into a glue dot. And I'm going to secure that just like that. And then my last touch is some of these gold foiled Pretty Peacock and Petal Pink and Pretty Peacock foiled gems. These again are from the annual. I know a lot of our embellishments in the mini are currently not orderable. So I just wanted to show you and remind you that we have a lot of great embellishments in the annual catalog that work with lots and lots of things. So there we go. The last touch, actually, we may as well, because I've got it here. I have an extra little scrap strip of the DSP. We're going to glue that inside our card. So when you have those little scrappy strips, don't throw them out. Just use them to decorate the inside of your card, right? Doesn't take a lot, but just that little something just kind of gives it that nice finished touch. So I'm just gluing this. This is 3/4 of an inch by 4 1/4, this little strip. And then I'm going to take my little leaf again. And I need to clean it because I used it with Pretty Peacock. We're going to stamp it in Wild Wheat. And then we're going to stamp our inside sentiment over top. So I have my leaf image. I am going to stamp off this time because I am going to stamp a sentiment over top and I want it to be quite light. So we're just going to kind of do a little hint of the image here. And then I'm going to come in with the other sentiment from the set, which is "You're simply the best." And we're going to stamp that over top of our leaf. Just like that. Easy peasy. All right, hope you like that one. That is, well, finished card number 1. It's really card number 2, but we haven't quite finished number 1. We'll finish that in a little bit. Okay, so that is that. Let me get these out of the way. And we're going to bring in number 3. So number 3 is a super simple fun fold. So I'm kind of, going back to basics today. Sometimes I use all the things and all the layers and all the folds, but this time it's nice and simple because this is a really cute, simple stamp set. So this is just sort of an offset gatefold or asymmetrical gatefold. Really, really simple and straightforward, but great way again to showcase pretty DSP, and is a great sort of entry point for those who are maybe new to doing fun folds. So I have here a piece of pecan pie cardstock. It is 5.5 by 8.5. It's half sheet. And then I've scored it at 1.5 and 5 3/4. So 1.5 and 5 3/4. These measurements are in the video description. So if you want to recreate this, you can just scroll down. You might have to click see more and then scroll for a little bit, but you will find them there. So I'm folding inwards along my score lines. I always like to fold one, and then before I sort of commit to the second side, I like to line up my edges to make sure that my gatefold is not going to have a gap. Because sometimes when we measure, we're not super precise. So if you just kind of take that that one little second to make sure those line up before you crisp up your folds, then you'll end up with a gatefold that's going to close nicely. Okay. All right. Oh, you made 3 of them yesterday, Lise. All right. See, it is a quick and easy one, right? Okay. So we have some iconic Celebrations Designer Series paper. So I have 2 different sizes, but two patterns in 2 sizes. Does that make sense? So I have the polka dot pattern in that is cut to 2 5/8 by 5 3/8. And then I have one that is cut to 1 3/8 by 5 3/8. Okay, so this larger one is going to go on the larger panel on the front. The narrower one is going to go on the narrow panel on the inside. Okay, so we'll go ahead and glue those on. I'm just going to open this up for ease of gluing. So we'll just add a little bit of glue here and pop it on. Just like that. Okay, and then we're also going to add the narrow one to the inside. Now, you do not have to add DSP to the inside of this card, but let's be honest, it just makes it that much more fabulous to decorate. And if we have pretty DSP, we should be using it, not hoarding it, right? Okay, now we have the same dimensions, but a different pattern. So this is same paper pack, but I'm using this pecan pie plaid. So once again, the narrow piece is going to go on that narrow portion on the front of our card. So I'll just now, here I like to line up my edges. So I'm going to close it up, and just as I'm adhering this, pay attention to make sure all my edges align. Okay, and then I'm going to open this up, and this panel is going to go on the inside of the larger panel. So we'll add that one. And again, just make sure we're nice and straight. Okay, so that is our card base. Now for the inside panel, I have a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inch piece of very vanilla cardstock. And we're going to do a little bit of stamping on that one as soon as I find the inks that I need, because they're kind of buried in the ones that we used on the first card. So I'm going to start by stamping my little birch leaf, poplar leaf, whatever leaf, in pecan pie. But first I need to clean all of these because we are using a different color palette. All right, so we're going to stamp our pecan pie. And I'm going to stamp along the bottom, but you're going to see when I actually glue it in my card, this is going to be the top. Sometimes it's fun to have leaves kind of falling down instead of in a pile at the bottom. So I'm going to stamp my solid image to fill in the outline, just like that. And then I'm going to come in with some Cajun Craze, which is also buried in my pile of ink pads here. And we're going to stamp the oak leaf. So we'll add 1 and 2. And I'm going to add just a little smidge here because I feel like there's a hole there that we need to fill. All right, so then again, we're going to stamp our solid image to fill these in. So this stamp set is great because if you don't have coloring tools, you don't need any, right? You can create multicolored leaves really quickly and easily just with stamps and ink. You don't have to have all of the things. It's a great set for someone who is a newer stamper, just getting their feet wet. So we're going to add this, but I'm going to put my leaves towards the top. Okay, so that's going to fit on that inside panel, just like that. Okay, so that is the inside. Now let's work on the front. So here I have done most of the work ahead of time, just in the interest of time. So I have here a die cut circle. I think this is the second largest circle from the Stylish Shapes dies. Again, cut from some more of this iconic imagery, DSP. And then I have several leaves that I've already stamped and fussy cut ahead of time. So I stamped Tone on Tone, Pecan Pie, and Cajun Craze. So I'm going to just go ahead and add a little bit of seal to the back of my circle here. And I'm going to add 1 oak leaf and a little bit more adhesive, and then another little leaf. And I think I probably have enough to do my last leaf there. Okay, so that is sort of the left edge of my circle. And then we're going to stamp our sentiments. So I have a little banner, again, cut with a stylish shape size. And I'm going to add my You're Simply the Best sentiment in early espresso ink. So we'll go ahead and ink this up. Oh, I got a sticky finger. Stick into my banner here. So we'll just go ahead and stamp that. And then I'm going to adhere a couple more leaves to the right end of this little banner. So we'll add an oak leaf kind of coming up this way, and a birch or poplar leaf kind of going down this way. Okay, and then that is going to get popped up onto my circle. So we'll add a couple dimensionals as soon as I figure out where they went. Do you ever have to start another sheet of dimensionals because you can't find the one you were using buried under all your chaos? Sometimes I end up in that situation. I'll have 3 or 4 sheets of dimensionals going. All right, so that is going to go on, not centered. I am a fan of off center, but if you are someone who likes centered, you could center that. And then that is going to get glued to the front of our card. Now we want to make sure that we're not gluing our card shut, right? So I'm going to flip this over and make sure that when I apply my glue that I'm only putting it where I actually want it to stick to the front of the card. I do not want that little flap to get stuck shut. So we're going to go ahead and stick this on. Just like that. Make sure our card still opens. We're all good. And then we're going to add a little bit of copper clay linen thread. This is from the Natural Tones linen thread pack in the mini. Also, I think currently not orderable. A lot of the embellishments went really, really fast in this mini. They're great embellishments, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them sold really, really quickly. There are more coming. We just have to be patient. All right, so I've got my little bow. I'm going to just take a half of a glue dot here. I'm just going to trim it off my roll here and make a little mini glue booger. And it's going to go kind of right on the notch here on my little banner. And then I'm just going to press the knot of my bow into that. Make sure that's secured. Okay, and then the last touch, this is all I have left of the faux glass gems that are also out of stock. I've got just a couple. So we're going to use a couple of them on this card. I'm using the green. I didn't have enough of the Cajun Craze. I probably would have chosen the Cajun Craze had I enough, but green is what I had, so green is what we're using. So there we go. Really quick and easy fun fold card that you can use really with any DSP. Okay, you like that one? All right, we're going to go back and finish the first card now. So let me set this aside. Our panel is nice and dry. Look at all those little water spots. Doesn't that add great texture? I really, really love that. Okay, so I'm just going to deal with a couple things here. There we go. We're getting spammed. All right, so we're going to now go ahead and stamp our sentiment. Now that our panel is nice and dry, it won't smear. So I'm stamping the You're Simply the Best once again in espresso ink. And we purposely left a little bit of space there. So now we can go ahead and stamp. Okay, now it's just a matter of layering our panel and decorating it a little bit. So I have a little bit of this polka dot trim. We're actually going to adhere that in the upper left corner of our panel here. This is actually from one of the sketches in the annual catalog. And I'm turning it so that the plain side is out because I just felt like the polka dots didn't quite work for a fall card. You could use the polka dots if you chose. So I'm just gonna secure that with a bit of seal. We're gonna flip it over and then add a bit more seal and secure it to the back. And maybe I'll trim it. We don't need quite that much length there. Just stick that nice and flat. And then I have a couple of leaves that I just stamped on some scrap watercolor paper and used the same technique on that I did on my background. And we're just going to crisscross them and adhere them to each other. So I'm just going to put a little bit of seal here. Oh, there we go. And then just kind of layer my 2 leaves like that, and they're just going to kind of sit up in that corner on a couple of dimensionals. So we'll go 1 and 2, and I'm going to add a mini just to the end of this little oak leaf. And we'll pop that on right over our little bit of trim there. We're going to add our bow in a moment, but first we're going to layer it onto a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock. So this is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and layer that. So again, a little bit of glue. I am going to put a little bit of seal over top of that trim because I want to make sure that it sticks nice and flat. So we'll pop this on just like that. Okay, and then that is going to get layered onto a piece of new online exclusive designer series paper. So this is from actually the scrapbooking brochure. It is this super cute, and I've just forgotten the name. I took it out specifically to try to remember, Sweet Days of Autumn. It's a great new DSP pack that can be purchased independently of the scrapbooking workshop kits. And you know me in fall, so I had to buy all the fall DSP. So this stuff is really, really cute. And I love this sort of wonky grid pattern. So this piece is cut again to 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to layer my background, my watercolored panel onto my DSP. And then that is going to get glued onto an early espresso card base that is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So again, we'll just crisp that up with our bone folder and then pop that on. A little bit of glue. Right side up is always good. Just like that. Okay. And then we're going to add a little bit of linen thread to our little leaves up there in the corner. So did I do a single? Oh, I did a double. All right, you get to watch me tie a double twine bow. I'm not sure if I've done that on camera in a while. So I'm just taking a thickness of, or a length of linen thread. What is it? Probably about 2 feet. And I'm just going to fold it in half and then just tie a bow. So I'm making my loop. I'm bringing my tail around and pulling it through. Okay. And then you just adjust the size of your loops. And what I like when I'm doing a double bow is I like to have one loop a little bit bigger than the other. That kind of emphasizes the fact that it's a double bow. And I also like to trim my tails to different lengths. Whoopsie, that one went a little bit short. There we go. So then we're going to just adhere that again with a glue booger. So we'll just take our little glue dot, roll it into a little blob of glue and stick that down. Okay, and then our last touch is some of these metallic sequins. These again are from the annual, and I love these brown ones. They work so well for fall, right? With our browns and oranges and golds. It's just a great combination. So there we go. There is our finished card. Now let me show you what I did on the inside of this one. I think I showed you earlier, but so I just stamped on some very vanilla cardstock. Okay, and did the same kind of blending trick, but it's not quite as effective. Can you see that? It's not quite as effective as when we do it on the watercolor paper. All right, so let me bring in all of our projects for today. So there's 1 and 2. Oh, I just stabbed myself with my, take your pick. Let's move that out of the way. And 3. And then I have a couple others to share with you. So here is one that was on offer at my card buffet this past weekend. Uses more of that cute, what is it? Sweet Days of Autumn. Man, I cannot remember the name of that DSP. Sweet Days of Autumn DSP. And then again, lots of stamped leaves. And then here is one that uses some of the beautiful Splendid Autumn DSP. I ripped it. I stamped on the back side of the DSP because that DSP has solid sort of washes on the back side. And then I ripped off a little bit extra to use on the inside. So there was very little waste of DSP on this card. And then here is another one. So this one, I watercolored using a water painter. Okay, and I started with my stamped images. I actually daubered the ink onto my stamps before I stamped them, again on watercolor paper. So I did two tones. So I put like yellow or Cajun craze and crushed curry, and then some crushed curry and pumpkin pie, and just kind of played around with fall colors with my daubers and stamped them on watercolor paper, then colored them with a water painter, and then fussy cut them out. And I love how soft and pretty they are. Isn't it pretty? Love that. And you barely see the outline image, right? It's just very, very faint. And then here's one that is not fall at all. I wanted to do a almost simple stamping. No die cutting, nothing fancy, just a couple of layers, a little bit of ink blending, just in green tones. And I really like the look of that one. So this stamp set has lots and lots of possibilities. Have a look at it. It is, as I said, one of the best values in the mini. And I've had so much fun playing with it. So let me come back to say a good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. Do have a look at this cute stamp set. Again, $24 here in Canada. It's a great bargain, and you can have some fun creating fall projects. Okay, thanks everyone for joining me today. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.